Hello, everybody.
Hello. Good to see you all.
I just turned down our elevator music. It's weird coming into this and not having like music, to set it, but it's
I
because
know
we're doing this on YouTube that we can't do that.
you're so used to it. Huh?
I am. It's like it sets the vibe. It's less awkward. Otherwise, I feel it's just like, hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, Leo.
Oh, is Neo there? Yeah,
Yeah,
she's in my build as well. I think you have an echo. Is that possible? Yeah,
I don't hear it. Will
I can
anybody
hear
else?
myself. Oh, maybe I need to just lower it.
Maybe.
Where's Neo? I don't see her.
She's impelled.
Oh, yeah, she was in my chat in build before.
Well, so anyway, guys, this is episode 2 of Dark Night of the Soul. And last time we kind of got into my story, one of my stories or little bits and pieces of several of my stories or however you want to look at it. Because the Dark Night of the Soul does not just happen once. It can happen to you multiple times. And so today we're going to go into a little bit more of Patricia's story to get her background on it.
Yes. So, yeah, you want me just shoot right off?
I mean, when do you not?
Anyway, let me say hello to Patty. Good to see you. And I wanted to say Kate, but you got you here. Rochelle, good to see you. And thank you. She said you look great. Love the color change. Anyway, yeah, good to see everybody. Cassandra, good to see you there. Yeah, so today we're gonna talk again about, well, as always, the Dark Night of the Soul. In this case, my Dark Night of the Soul. I don't know if you guys watched last week, but for those who didn't, we covered about what the Dark Night of the Soul is. Do you want to explain briefly?
Sure. I mean, to me, it is kind of the shadow part of the Great Awakening. So as you wake up and as you have this spiritual advancement, it's kind of like the breaking of the shell so that you can grow in that way spiritually, get closer to God. And it's really kind of a shattering of the ego, which is very painful. It can be very dark, very isolating to people when they go through it. But pretty much it's ultimately for your greatest good because it forces you to change. If there isn't any turmoil and there isn't any hardship, then there is no change. And really what the Great Awakening is about, it's not about just knowing that the world, knowing different things about the world. It's about a change within.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I had multiple Dark Night of the Souls, like probably many had. For me, it started out. Well, actually, I need to start maybe with a little bit of preface because everything that led up to my giant back to back to back Dark Night of the Soul. I actually, since I was 25, I suffered from agoraphobia, which is you do not get out of the house, panic attacks, afraid to get out. And I have suffered from that now for, well, actually, it's going to be 31 years tomorrow. And
By the way, I'm so sorry. Let me just say this really fast. Tomorrow is Patricia's birthday.
yeah.
Which is actually, so, I mean, it's coming closer for you because you're in the Netherlands and obviously it's closer to midnight there than it is here in the
Yes.
US. So we're kind of spending your birthday with you.
Yes, thank you. Actually, because yeah, I actually forgot about that. Although I did mention it, but I totally forgot. Like, oh yeah, it's my birthday. But yeah, I'm gonna be 56 tomorrow, or in a couple of hours on this side of the pond. I'm in Europe, by the way. And thank you, Rochelle. So anyway, yeah, for me at 25, I started getting panic attacks like badly, 5 times a day. It was utter terror that I felt. And so, yeah, I lived with that for many, many years. And on top of that, I got antidepressants at a certain point, and I I got quite a high dose, and I didn't realize it until actually I quit. how bad it was. And you're literally a zombie. I
Mm.
mean, Kate, you've been on them. And but I made about 8 attempts over 15 years to quit. It was really difficult. I needed to tweak and find a way to get rid of it. Anyway, in 2016, well, I was awake already. Actually, mine awakening started with Princess Diana. So that
Really?
was, yeah, in 1997, with her death. Yeah, I immediately saw something is not right. And obviously, she put out her interviews. Anyway, that was many, it's 9/11. For me, it was Princess Diana. 9/11 was, another one where I already had my eyes open. So I did my research and everything over the years. And so, yeah, obviously, that is. Yeah, your paradigm shifts, but for me it was not very shockingly, because it was very graduate that I started looking into things. And hi Chica Boom, late for class, yes. Anyway, so thank you Neo there for your amp, whatever that is. Anyway, thank you so much.
We need
Thank
a
you.
cheat sheet for pilled. I don't know what anything is either, but they're all nice.
But yeah, so anyway, leading up to that, in 2017, I actually started my first detox, and that's when I started tapering off the medication. And by the way, before that, 2012, I went into rehab. I had a severe addiction to Xanax, Coke. Well, antidepressants is not so much um, drugs, in that sense that you cannot take more. If you would, you're going to feel
Mm.
miserable. So it's not
Mhm.
like, but anyway, I would constantly take uppers and downers. And yeah, I was pretty much a zombie. And so then when I did that detox in 2017, I absolutely started feeling so much better, to which I started tapering off the medication. And yeah, that was the easiest time, because I already had 7 attempts before that, and it always went wrong. Um, and so, anyway, I got off them eventually. Well, no, I didn't get off them. It took me quite a long time. I tapered off over 3 years' time. And then I had my cats, by the way, whom I lived with for 15 years. And they were with me every day, 24/7, from the moment I got them, brother and sister. And I don't have any children. Um, Not
And
really
also
by,
being agoraphobic, that's your social circle, that's your
yeah.
life, right? These 2 little kitties.
Yeah, that was my life. That was everything I had. My friend circle became smaller and smaller. And so I just spent my life in home. But then in 2020, 1st of January, I thought to myself, I got already within, this community, the movement and stuff. And I figured, what if I actually start a channel just to get back into the world of people? And it was absolutely scary, because up till then I was just anonymous. People didn't really know me, although they did know me from chats, obviously, and Twitter and stuff like that. But they had never seen me or anything. So I set that goal on the 1st of January on 2020, and I started my channel. And from that moment, it started taking off. And it was, yeah, it was tough, because for some reason I didn't know how to be in the world. And even if it was online, I would stop everything else that I did before, which was sports, regularly keeping my house clean, being with my cats every day, and involve them in my life. And so as the year went by, while I was on YouTube, I got so involved online with people, and constantly in contact with people. That's when I met you, Kate. And so I was constantly talking online. And then one cat got sick. And I really I didn't notice it until later. But then, yeah, he held on for quite a while. And then in June, actually 25th of May 2021, that's when shit hit the fan, because one cat died, and 7 days later exactly the other one followed. And that was, well, that was probably the biggest breakdown I've ever had. And a month later, I decided to completely quit the medication, the antidepressants. Remember,
Mhm.
you actually gave me the CBD as an advice to do that last bit, and I did. And I was grieving so badly that I didn't even see the difference between, quitting at once with the antidepressants and being in this deep grief. And I went through that for a year. Well, actually, to be fair, a lot longer than that. But the worst of that was in the first year. And I think grief is a giant trigger for dark night of the soul moments. As
Grief
is,
and trauma.
yeah, grief, trauma, loss of job, loss of relationships, stuff like that. So that's yeah, that's what I learned. It's a giant catalyst to you're being catapulted into so many things. And anyway, um the moment, it took me actually 3 weeks before I realized they were really gone. And it was one morning that I woke up, and all of a sudden I realized they were gone, and gone, and I just collapsed completely. And because they were my life, they were my everything, 24/7 for 15 years. And yeah, that was really hard. It still is, actually, to be honest, because they were like my life, my soul, my world. They were everything. And I even celebrated my Christmas just with my cats. I didn't see family, I didn't go anywhere, I did everything with my cats. Some
I
make,
think
well,
Oh, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to make a point really fast because I think with pets, you we have relationships with people, even family members. Relationships with human beings are complicated. And even if you really, really love someone, it's complicated with human
right,
relationships. With pets, it is only love. It is
yeah,
only love. There's no bitterness. It's just love. So that's why
yeah.
that loss, and of course, because this was your world.
Yeah, it was unconditional. And indeed, many people have lives next to having pets. I didn't have a life next to having pets. Yeah, I had my pets, and that was it.
Right.
And so now my whole world crumbled. It, dare I say, it would be, for me, it felt like I lost my children.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was hard. And I tried to go consciously through that, because I knew if I wouldn't do that, then it would constantly come back to me. But it's not as easy as they say about grief, right? It comes and it goes in waves. And there's a moment that you think, oh, I'm feeling better now, only to collapse the next day again, right?
Right.
So anyway, then, thanks to all my followers, and I was on YouTube, I told them the whole story, what happened. And then they said, well, actually, I decided maybe I should get out of here and just get out of this house, and just cut the cords for once and for all. After the agoraphobia, I hadn't left my house for, well, in total, I did leave my house occasionally, and when it was never alone. But yeah, it was essentially, I just lived in my house, and that's what it was. I was never bored, by the way. I would always paint and do things. And hey, Carola, good to see you. But anyway, so then I decided to go abroad, and that was a huge, giant step for me. And
Yes. I mean,
the
think about going from living in your house and just your house to not only like leaving your country, but leaving your country for another that is culturally very different. It wasn't like you went to another, European, you went to Mexico.
Yeah, if I think about it now, it's like, what was I thinking? It must have been an impulsive thing. However, that was another catalyst for so many things. So once I was in Mexico, at first, the first 4 months were okay. It was extremely uncomfortable because, I hadn't been anywhere. I did actually take Xanax to get in the in the airplane, but once I was there, I decided not to take it because, I figured, I do this, and I'm going through this extreme change. So now I just want to run with it. Well, that was a bit too much to ask of myself, I guess. But then I was 4 months in, I had to move to a place. And that's when all shit hit the fan, because now we were over a year further. And for the first time, because I quit with the antidepressants, all my feelings came back all of a sudden in one go. And before, I was obviously in that grief stage. So you're in turmoil, whatever. But there, I was hit like by a brick wall. That's how I felt. All my feelings came back that I hadn't had for 28 years. And so they all came to the surface, but with that also a lot of memories of trauma, sexual abuse, stuff like that. So I started crawling over the floor with panic attacks, one after the other. It was so terrifying. And so then after that, I got I got two cats over there that I rescued, and hoping it would give me some solace. But they cannot replace those that I had. And it took me quite a long time before I started bonding with them. But by the time I got to that point where I wanted to bond, I actually ended up in a hospital where that almost cost my life. Because so that was my appendix that it took 24 hours before I arrived in the hospital. They left me on the ground over there. It was horrendous. I didn't have insurance because something went wrong from my country here in the Netherlands, where they actually unregistered me, which meant that I lost my complete insurance. So now I was forced to go to a poor man's hospital, I want to say. Well, they don't like foreigners that much there because they think, oh, you're coming here for free health care while you're a rich foreigner. And so they've treated me like, well, worse than a stray dog. I can tell you that. It was so traumatizing. I actually came out of the hospital with toilet paper against my wound, and it was leaking out like cups full of fluids. The next day, and thankfully, I had a lot of people over there that in the village that I stayed. There were a lot of expats that helped me, thankfully, when I got out of the hospital. Um, but yeah, I almost died there. And then I had to go to the doctor. I remember falling off my bike, and I was in the middle of nowhere in like one back road, and I was just laying there on the ground, and I had to wait till somebody came and picked me off the street so that I could go to the doctor, because my doctor wasn't that far from me where I lived. Anyway, that whole ordeal. In the meantime, I had to move 4 times also. And so with my cats, and it was so traumatizing. I cannot even begin to explain what that has done to me, because I lost so much weight. I was a skeleton when, and then I got sepsis too on top of that. It was horrendous. And I didn't have many people around me over there that supported me, but those that I did have, thankfully, they brought me food and stuff. I literally couldn't do anything. So then finally, my in the Netherlands, they registered me again. I actually sued them, and I won the court case. Um, Actually, I had a hearing, and I won that right the week after I got out of the hospital, which also meant they had to pay me because my benefits were not coming in. So I had no benefits whatsoever. So now I got my money, and then I bought a ticket back home because I was on the verge of, well, I was on the brink of complete collapse. And so when I came back home, I mean, that in itself was a dark night of the soul. I went through such a, it was literally PTSD full on. I was aggressive. I was crying all the time. I had panic attacks nonstop, um, and I couldn't get out of it. So, in a way, is that a dark night of the soul, or is it still that you're going through the motions of it? I do believe the last one, because I wasn't even comprehending what was happening at that time. So, I do believe when you go through a dark night of the soul, you do comprehend what is happening in a sense, but you can't find the key. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, you're yeah, you're right. There's no shortcut. There's no like numbing your way through it. It's
No.
not happening like even though the things are manifesting in the life around you, it still requires your participation to accept the growth and accept the lessons and
Right.
when they seem so harsh, right?
Yeah, but in this case, I didn't even see any lessons yet. I just wanted to die, literally. I wanted
Yeah.
to die. And but I didn't die in that moment because of, the appendix, although I almost did. But after that, I was like, I don't see the point of this anymore, because it went one thing after the other. And so then I had to book my flight back. That was another horror story, where they put my cats. I brought my cats with me. They put them in the luggage compartment, and when I actually arrived back in the Netherlands and I saw my cats, I just cried. They looked like they've been in a washing machine for 20 hours straight.
Mm.
It was so horrendous. And they were absolutely traumatized by that one. I don't know what they've done with them, but they clearly had thrown with my cats,
Oh
literally
my
like
gosh.
luggage, and everything was upside down. They were so traumatized. I cannot even begin to tell you. So I felt so guilty, but at the same time, I was just, you know, um, I was just trying to survive mentally. And so then I came home, and then most more than half of my stuff was rubbed out of my house. So I thought, oh, finally I can breathe. I'm home. And now I didn't even have a bed. I didn't have a table. My chairs were gone. Everything in my kitchen was gone. My towels were gone. I had nothing. And so I had to sleep on the floor in my own house, because I rented my house out to somebody that was a custodian, and she left abroad before I came back. So I could not sue her or anything. I just had to deal with it. And so that was another one, where I still couldn't think straight. I couldn't see straight. I was just an absolute total panic, 24/7. But yeah, my cats at the time, one actually turned out to be deaf. So she would destroy the house for whatever was left,
Mm.
because, and they were traumatized as well. And so then yeah, I don't know if I want to talk about the incident with my driver's license. But
You
yeah,
don't have to.
anyway, there was a moment where I just was at the end of my ropes, and something happened, and police came at the door, and they thought that I was going to kill myself, which wasn't the case, by the way. I was sleeping, but that was a whole different story. They actually locked me up for 5 hours in a crisis center.
Well, you should talk about how you would sleep very hard, and that's why
Right.
you couldn't be stirred. I had a friend in high school that was that same way, and it used to scare the crap out of her parents because she would fall asleep so hard that nobody could wake her.
Yes, that's correct. So I had this my whole life because of trauma. I would sleep and I would not wake up. I could easily sleep 20 hours.
Mm.
I would give the cats food in my sleep. I could pick up the phone in my sleep. I would send messages in my sleep, but I could not remember any of it. I did remember, the only thing I always remembered is that I gave my cats food and I did their litter box, and that was it. And so but I did not remember anything, so I don't know what happened. All I know is that people called the police, based on probably some messages that I sent while I was asleep,
Mm.
and and I was so confused when this happened. So they forced me to this crisis center, which I was so confused. I didn't even want to go. And so then I got yeah, that actually cost my driver's license as well, because they register you whatever as insane. And
Mm.
yeah, so that was another hurdle that absolutely was brutal, to the point that I even had to give up my cats. And because I couldn't take care for them anymore. I was absolutely at the end of my ropes. I couldn't even breathe anymore. I was so skinny. Um, there was no life in me left actually at that point. And so I had like panic attacks in this kitchen. I would just fall on the floor and just hyperventilate, and I couldn't get out of it. And that's when actually, after that incident, something changed. At that moment, I was like, wait a minute. I need to get through this. I need to survive. I need to find a way to the other side of this. And I couldn't find it, because that's what it is, right? The dark night of the soul, when you go through that. But now I knew I was in the dark night of the soul, an absolute full blown. Um, yes, I didn't know what back and forth was, or left and right, but I was very aware that this couldn't go on like this, because I was literally drowning. And so it was back to back to back to back after, like, from the moment my cats died. That was 2021. I came back from Mexico in 2023 October. So yeah, that it was that long, all the suffering. But then I had to go through that to I had to go through everything and process everything that had happened, and that's what I started doing. And with that, I couldn't take care of the cats anymore, so I had to find them a home. And that really broke me as well. Guilt feeling, all that sort of stuff. Um, Plus, one was so sick because of all the stress
Mhm.
that I had, but also because of what happened in Mexico and during the travel. And so now I couldn't afford their medical bills either. So I had to give them up. And one had a chronic pancreas. How you call that?
Yeah, pancreas.
Yeah, it was infected. It was chronically infected. So he was in a lot of pain. And thankfully, they are now in the most amazing place where they can go outside. They have free care. They stay with a lot of other cats, but they won't ever find a place for them anymore, because they're going to stay there for life. And they have a lot of freedom. But yeah,
And you
they
get to
they
go visit them.
I can, but they're in the other side of, well, they're in the middle of the country. And
Right.
so, and I still have agoraphobia.
Right.
So that's a bit of a problem. But anyway, I've been, ever since the moment, the day my cats left, I started putting my house back together. Um, I got my bed, I got all that stuff. And it was only then that I started rebuilding my life. And I wasn't out of it yet, but that's when I actually went through it, like straight through it. And that's
Can I ask
actually,
what do you remember what it was in that the lowest point when you decided I can't give up? Do you remember what you thought about, or what was the thing that made you say I can't give up, I have to stay? Like, was there anything in your mind?
yes. So I'm of the belief that if I would commit suicide, I would come back, and then I have to do it all over again.
Yeah.
And I'm absolutely convinced of that. And that also saved me. But at the same time, it felt, you're feeling like, how do you say that, between a rock and a,
In a hard place, yeah.
yeah. So,
It's so
you
funny.
know,
Every time you do that to me, I forget how to speak English sometimes. You'll be like, "How do I say this?" And I'm like, "I don't know." I don't know anymore.
I know. So yeah, so I was like, I literally I wanted out, but at the same time, I couldn't go out because of my belief
Yeah.
system that I have. And I thought it's way worse if you step out and then you have to start all over again. So I've been there several times that I definitely wanted to step out, that I was like, I don't care. I literally don't care if I'd rather do it over again tomorrow, but not now, not in
Yeah.
this moment, right?
Later.
But then I would always come to my senses and think, no, there's no freaking way I can do that. I cannot permit myself to do that. So that was the moment when I was really at the end of my ropes, where I was literally gasping for air, although I had air around me. Um, and that's the moment that, like, answering your question, is the moment that I thought, I have no choice. I just
Mm.
don't have a choice. I need to get out. And so then how am I going to get out? Right. So what has happened? And so I had to process everything that happened from the moment that my cats died up till I got back from Mexico. And that's when I started consciously processing everything. I wrote things down. I got panic attacks in it. I breathed myself through it. And I want to say that I chose not to be a victim of myself anymore. I think that's very important, because once you're in that turmoil, you really feel yourself a victim. We talked about that last week, because you're just gasping for air, right? You try to not to drown. And so, but at the same time, once you realize, what if I take responsibility and I decide to continue doing what I need to do and get out of here, that's the moment you're going to take responsibility. And for some reason, things get a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Right? And then you think to yourself, what have I done to myself this whole time? I was resisting so much that now I came at this point of surrender. Like,
Mm.
it wasn't a total surrender, because even that goes in stages, but there were indeed stages of surrender constantly, until I got to the point of, yeah, we can't do this anymore. I need to figure out a way how I can make myself feel better. And till this day, I'm still working on that. And obviously, I did get out of the other side, but like we talked about last week, it goes so gradually that you don't even, if I look back now, like 2 years, or the moment that I got back out of Mexico, to how I feel now, it's a world of difference, like a giant difference. However, do I feel it that way? Um, yeah, obviously, if I look around me, I know that, but it's still scary. It still feels like, am I sure I'm out of it? Am I not gonna bump into another frigging wall?
Yeah, you start to not trust anything because you're like the rug could just get pulled at any moment, and you do feel a little bit afraid of going back to that dark place. But it's interesting that you brought up the surrender. It's almost like anybody that's gotten caught in a big wave and you're getting thrashed around and you're trying to swim your way out of it, sometimes relaxing your body and letting the wave kind of push you out of it is the better way to go.
Wow, that's such a great analogy. That's an absolute amazing analogy, because I did feel like I was at a rough sea, where one wave came and I was fighting, and the next wave came and I was fighting. And again, to the point you cannot breathe anymore. And then there's this moment of surrender, where you're like, I have no choice. What else is there? I mean, I might as well die right now, just because, I don't know, I can't breathe. And so that moment you relax into it, you just surrender to it. And what do you know? You start drifting, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened. But it wasn't that conscious. It's over gradually over time. I realized, oh, wait a minute, I'm floating now. I'm not, obviously, I'm still not a happy camper. I'm floating, but I'm not a happy camper. I'm still in that panic that next wave is coming, indeed. And I love that analogy, because that's exactly what it is. That one wave is a freaking dark night of the soul.
Right.
And yeah, so once I got there, so that was probably, well, actually, that's when we got to talk, and you were in a crisis. So I was at the end of my crisis, and then we actually, we obviously we spoke right after everything happened for you, and I was right at the end of that part, and then you came in with your grief and your stress, and I was like, boy, I do feel so much better, because now I feel like you have it way worse than I do. And obviously, you shouldn't be comparing, but it
Right.
did give me, it was a barometer for me to see that, oh my God, I got out on the other side, because I'm available to listen to you. I'm available to be there for you. You can do that if you're in the middle of that horrible wave, right?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it happens gradually. So sometimes it takes looking around. And we do this weird thing when we look back on our past. Sometimes it's easy to forget exactly how hard it was. It's so funny as we're talking, I have like all these memes that flash through my head. They're like, oh, that meme would be perfect for this right now. But there's this meme that I have that it's like, I think it says 2015, and it's just like a person's face, and then in their head it's just like turmoil and it's just miserable, and then it says this is what nostalgia does, and then it's somebody in 2024 thinking back to 2015, and they're thinking about how wonderful it was and how they
Right.
wish they could go back to that. So there is something in us that sometimes maybe we block out some of the trauma, but we do remember going through something hard. And then when we get on the other side of it, we do need that comparison, but it's almost like some of it isn't there for us because we've blocked it out, or because we've had such growth that it doesn't seem as bad as it seemed at the time. But
Right.
I know, as somebody that knew you through the process, the growth that you've had and how different you are as a person. Like all those beautiful parts of you were still in there, but you were just like this, you were like this goof. Like you were just this goofy kind of you were so funny, but it was almost like this surface level thing. And you
Right.
and I have such a deep connection and such a deep friendship now because of who you are and how you were there for me and how we've connected through this really ugly stuff.
Right. Yeah, because there were like bouts where I went through it again as well with you together, and
Right.
holding each other's hand and trying not to drown, right? I mean,
Yes.
I remember that we were calling, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't either. I just want
Yep.
out. Right.
I mean, I remember that, but it was like, yeah, there were times that it was like triggering in you some of the stuff that I was going through. And you're just like, I mean,
Yeah.
the world can
Well,
be ugly.
Well, and for me was also, remember that I've spent like 30 years with agoraphobia, and then the moment that my cats died, that was the catalyst. But and ever since it hasn't stopped. The moment I quit the antidepressants, it did not stop. So I do believe everything now. When I look back, everything had to happen exactly the way it did. Why? Because the cats dying triggered for me to go abroad. Me going abroad triggered for me all my traumas coming to the surface, and also obviously also quitting the antidepressants. But it also triggered for me, yeah, all my traumas coming to the surface and needing to process those. And then the trauma I was actually enduring right as I was going through my old trauma, I was enduring new trauma as well. So I do firmly believe now, and this is where the lesson comes in from the Dark Night of the Soul. If I wouldn't have resisted as much as I did at that time, it would have been gone a lot easier. And I was holding on for dear life. But like in that little clip that we showed last week, right? I was literally holding on to the last vestiges of life as far as I could, as hard as I could. I was so stubborn. And so I do believe that had I surrendered earlier, I would have suffered a bit less, a lot less probably.
Yeah, I
But
mean, that is so profound and I mean, it's so true. And like you said, one of the the themes that ties this experience together with different people is that you do always look back on it and say, it had to be that way. I see that now. You will
Yes.
never see it when you're in it. It always seems like, this, I'm just being punished. God hates me. God has forgotten about
Right.
me. This is
Yes.
just, like, why me? You look around at other people's lives and they're not suffering the way that you are. And you're just like, why is this happening? And literally, when you look back, you realize that where you were was not serving you. And if you would have
Yeah.
died then, it would have been an absolute tragedy, because you
Yeah.
would have never reached who you are now. And you have to go through that really hard. It's only going to come through pain. It's
Right.
only ever going to come through pain. We wish we could just like watch a video on it and be like, oh, okay, I get it. I'm evolved now, but it doesn't come that way.
Oh my God. I thought before my cats died that I was awake and I
Right.
evolved with myself. Well, I was not even 10% there. I mean, the and I'm not even 100% there, but like it felt like I got like 80% of everything all at once over the course of 4 years.
Mm.
And but if you think about it, I obviously stayed comfortably in my home with the agoraphobia and my cats, and that was very comfortable for me. I was in my comfort zone. I stayed in my comfort zone. I did not go out until they died, because then what did I have left except for me? Even my house didn't feel like my house anymore. Nothing felt like me anymore. It felt like a bit of myself died with them.
Mm.
And essentially that is true, but it was my old self that died with them. And I this going to sound weird to people, but it was 2 hours before the cat died that I asked her, I said, do you need to go too? I had to take her to the vet for blood works, and I felt it coming already, because she showed that she was really sick the day after the first one died. And so it was 2 hours before I went to the veterinarian, and I was laying with her and I looked at her and I said, do you need to go too? And I hear this voice in my head so strongly. I will never forget it. And she said, yes, mom, because now you have to do it by yourself. And that literally, I never forget that moment because it prepped me for what was to come. Only I didn't think it would be that bad.
Right.
Uh, but it was. But essentially, everything that I numbed with antidepressants, with Xanax, all that stuff, that now came all exploded out to the surface all at once. And that was brutal. But I don't think there was any other way to get through that than in that way, extreme way.
Right.
So,
Well, yeah, for you, that was what maybe the experience that was necessary. Maybe for somebody else, it would be different. And of course, it's hard not to look around and compare our lives and our challenges and our hardships with other people. But like, I think of it this way. I mean, I don't think everybody is here to have the same amount of growth. And, just like not everybody is going to win an Olympic event. Well, winning an Olympic event is very, very difficult. And that's why it's so rewarding. If it was easy, everyone would do it and then it wouldn't be special. And
right.
it is special once you get on the other side of it. It's absolute crap when you're in it and you will think that the world is just evil. Well, yes, there is evil in the world. And we've talked before about how um it's almost like people like Invasion of the Body Snatchers with some of the people that are around you. And it's almost like they pop up to play this character
Oh,
that's going to
yeah.
challenge you even more or do something worse to you. And you just want to give up because you're like, well, I just don't have the support. But part of the lesson is we are always alone. It is always, no matter if you have lovely friends in your life, like sometimes those friends, as lovely and supportive as they are, might be enabling you to stay where you're not meant to be.
Yeah, that happened definitely for me for a long time. Well, before I had my cats, people just, that I did have around still, they would just go with what I wanted, right? Because it's a phobia. So people can try and force me, but I just say no, and I'm not going to go. But now I force myself to do this. And yeah, I went to the other side of the world. But Yeah, it definitely, I didn't expect to have these lessons, but obviously they needed to come. And at
Yeah,
the
you were
same,
expecting like an eat, pray, love experience. And
well,
it was like
no.
shit, die, and whatever.
Shit, die, and vomit, right?
Right.
It was exactly that. It was and more, right? I mean, you cannot make this up. But you know what I've learned? This is where learned to soften, especially in the last, I think in the last 8 months, I softened so much. I cry now about everything. I couldn't cry actually about everything. Now I just cry whenever, right? I just have to see a puppy and I cry.
That's
So
beautiful.
yeah, all my feelings just came to the surface, and I literally needed to distinguish what feeling was what. And I just had two like default settings, that was anger and fear. And
Mm.
that was the default that I knew and I've known all my life. I haven't known any other real emotions. And
By the way, the two most low vibrational feelings that you can have.
yes, yeah. And during this dark night of the soul, I went through shame, guilt, all the emotions you can possibly think of, and tackle them one by one, and still ongoing, by the way. And every day there is now a moment that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is new. This is new. And so I learn more and more. But what I did learn as well, there was this post, I actually talked about it last week, about this girl with Save a Fox who killed herself.
Mhm, mhm.
and um and people in the comments were like, oh, she's so selfish, how can she do that, leave her daughter behind? But you know what, I now know what it is to be at the end of your ropes, that you are at a point so low that you're like, I don't give a fuck, I'm just going, I don't, in fact, you can't even give attention to anything and anybody around you, even if I had them around me, right?
Right.
But I do have a lot of empathy for many people that are going through this. Um, and I hear it a lot in the past years, where people are going through these dark moments, these dark nights of the soul, to the point that yeah, they do think, I don't want to be here anymore. And it's not like they're going to act on it, but
Right.
I do understand the thought. I do understand now, why somebody gets to that point.
Yeah, there is a difference between saying, "I don't want to be here anymore," and saying, "I am going to kill myself."
Right,
There is a difference between that,
right,
because, I mean, there were days that I just wanted to disappear into the couch, like, I just wanted to
right,
stay so still that I would just evaporate. But,
right,
like, to say, like, there was never a consideration in my head to ever actually do anything about myself. I was just like, "Why am I still here?"
right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, that's why this is a relay race, because now that you and I have been through something like that, and we can empathize with it, we can
Right.
help other people the same way. Like, everybody that goes through it, it's kind of like your duty to reach back then and help other people through it as well.
Yes.
Because yeah, if I wouldn't have had you, and Leyland and the people that helped me through mine, so
Yes.
now it's my turn to also help, and you're still doing it,
Right.
right?
And that's so true, because because of you, and also Leyland, she helped me incredibly. And because you went through that dark moment, for me, it felt like, I'm not alone in this, first and foremost, but then also, um, we all can get there. And I felt how you felt. I felt how miserable it felt and how stressed you were and everything, because I just got out of there. And so, like no other, I could understand what you went through. And so that was, definitely, for me, it the fact that I could be there for you as well, that made me feel like, oh, I have room again for other things besides being focused on myself and my own shit that I'm going through, right?
Right.
And the same for you. So, but you can lift each other up with that as well. I mean, yeah, it sounds a bit, morbid, if you say that, because you went through the stress, that I felt better about myself. But In a way, it was the case because I could now, like I said before, it's a barometer, right?
Right. But also in helping me, I think that was kind of some of the final stages of you getting yourself out of it as well. There's nothing better. They say that teaching is learning twice, right? When you teach somebody else something, you are actually relearning it yourself. It's
Right.
kind of the same with guilt, with grief. That when you are helping somebody through a grief that they have been through or that you've already been through, you're doing more to heal yourself of your own grief as
Yeah,
well. Like when I went through infertility, blogging about it and being honest about it and telling other people and, sharing what I found that was helping me, that was helping them, but it was helping me way more.
true. That is so true. You're saying now because we talked so often, like almost daily.
Mhm.
And as you talked, I learned so much as well because now I'm in a way outside of it and I'm looking at it from your perspective. But at the same time, I learned so much from it because I could, when you would talk about something, I was like, oh, yeah, I went through that. And oh my God, I never thought about that anymore. But maybe I should, because you need to process all these stages that you're going through, but you can't tackle them all, right? They
Mm.
just come as, like I said, in waves. And this is so true. I learned a lot because of what you went through as well.
It's almost like the Wizard of Oz, where you meet each character as you're supposed to, they just kind of come along the path when they're supposed to. It's the same thing with processing grief or trauma, going through the dark night of the soul. You want to just speed it up and be like, let's just get through this all at once and, go on your quest. But it's going to manifest in the way that it absolutely has to. And yes, it's possible that we could go through it again. And now that we've both been through it a couple different times in a couple different ways, we know that it's not always the same. And just because
Right.
we see the signs of starting to go through that now again, number one, to be less fearful because we don't know exactly how it's going to look like. Number two, we know we're stronger than we were and we're more
Right.
prepared for it. But also number three, most importantly, I think, is exactly what you said about surrendering and knowing that you will suffer less if you just surrender and you do what you have to do and you don't fight it.
Right. Right. That's the biggest lesson probably I did get is surrender to it. But I'm quite stubborn, I guess. And
You are?
and because it came all at once, it was such a shock to my system that the first thing you do is fight. It was fight, flight, freeze, right? And so that's the state that I was in. And hey, Thunder, good to see you there. And divining rods, and knock my socks off. Yes, maybe we could go to average show again. But anyway, oh, and draw and strike. Good to see you too.
Oh,
But
hi.
yeah, it was, there were moments that I felt like I literally had demons around me. It was, I'm not religious, but I pray to Jesus. I can tell you that. I've
Yeah.
had moments that I prayed because I was absolutely in total horror of panic and over and over and over again, that you might think at a certain point you get so exhausted for it, you may as well surrender. Well, that's exactly what happened at points. But then I would get back to resisting again. And hey, Geert, good to see you too.
You know
I'm
what's so interesting that literally just occurred to me right now in this very moment that you were talking? So during all of this, it was you, me, and Leyland, like the three musketeers. We were all three going through our own stuff, helping ourselves, our each other through all of this. I just realized that literally your fight, Leyland is flight, and I'm freeze. This is how we handle
right.
it. You fight, you get angry.
I
She
get angry.
she protects herself and I cry
That is
and freeze
so
and I get
true.
stuck. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's so true. I do believe I went through all these stages, but mostly what I did in the worst times, it was fighting, fighting, fighting,
Right.
and resisting, right? And I had this before in when I was young, when I would be bullied, I would never fought back ever. That was when I was in my freeze stage. But now that I was an adult, um, I guess that's another mechanism that you do when you're young. You tend to freeze. At least in my case, that was the case. So I was freeze, and as an adult, I would actually fight, and it was a total panic fight. It was like blindly slapping around, but it wouldn't do anything, right? Um, well, it would do a lot, but not anything good. So yeah, definitely, that's so spot on, actually.
Yeah, and I just, because you guys were like, "You have to fight," and I just thought I didn't have that in me, like, I'm sorry, you, Leyland, and my mom were all like, "You need to move through to the anger phase. You have to get a little bit angry
Yes.
because it's one of the parts of the process," and I literally could not get myself to be angry enough to get myself out of freeze. Well,
Yes.
eventually I
That
did.
was that was such a difficult one for me to process, because I was like steam coming out my ears on your behalf, and you would just be like, freeze. And that was, but there is also fighting, and in this case that was meant for you was the fighting. You can do that also in a positive way, because you can fight, take responsibility. I'm going to fight back against this demon, if we want to call it that, right? Which is, all the dark that is coming at you, and you're going to fight, and you're going to say, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to take responsibility for whatever is going on, but I'm going to get out of there. And this is a good fight.
Yeah, it's not
But
about vengeance. It's
right,
about standing up for yourself, fighting for yourself,
that's the
or
good
for your
fight.
kid, like in my case.
And my fight was, an anger was about fighting off everything that I was terrified of. Everything around me, I was just slapping it away and knocking everything out, like an elephant in the porcelain chamber. How they call that? In the porcelain
Oh, a
shop.
bull in a china shop. Oh
Oh,
my
you
god,
call
an
it that?
elephant in a porcelain chamber. I die.
We call it the elephant in a china shop.
Porcelain
You guys
chamber.
call
Oh
it a
my god.
bull?
What was the thing that you said that one time that just killed me? You were like, oh
Oh,
shit.
it knocked me off
Oh,
my
off
rockers.
off your knockers. Off your
Oh yeah,
knockers
rock me
instead.
off. Yeah, I wanted to say it blew my socks off, and at the same time I wanted to say it rocked me off my socks or something like that. And
You wanted
so,
to say off your rocker, like that person's off your rocker, and you said they're off
right,
their knockers.
off my knockers, yeah, because I combined two sayings in one. I tend to do that.
I love
But
it.
yeah, I was like this bull in a china shop, and that was how I was fighting. Yes, Geert, exactly. An olifant in a porseleinwinkel. He's Dutch. He can confirm. That's how we say it. So, in a porcelain shop. So you guys call that China, right? Which
Yes.
is so funny. But anyway,
Right.
that's exactly how I was fighting. But I was fighting, blindfolded. And while after that, I actually started fighting, in a different way, as in, first of all, surrender. And then, but it's not really called fighting, but standing up for yourself, taking responsibility for whatever is happening, and say, okay, fuck all that, I'm just going to move through it,
Mhm.
and I don't care anymore. Let the panic attacks come, I don't care. I'm just going to go for it. Now, obviously, we need to be a bit moderate here, because I still have agoraphobia. I still don't go out like on the reg. I do my shopping and stuff like that, but it's not like I take a bus or a train, or I take my bike and I go into the city center. I don't. But I'm getting there, and I'm working on that so hard, nonstop. Um,
But also, to be fair, a lot of the world is retreating back to their homes right now instead of making themselves go out in the world.
That's an interesting one, because I've been noticing this a lot, where people constantly say, I don't feel like going out anymore. I don't even want to go out anymore. Well, it's interesting, because during COVID, I was the only one going outside, even though nobody was allowed to go outside for a certain point, and people would stay indoors, right? All paranoid. And I had the world for myself. So for the first time, it was reversed. I didn't have to stay in my house. I could go outside, didn't have to see people, because there were hardly any people outside, and I felt like freedom.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it was so. And then COVID was over, and I was like, uh-oh, I have to get back in. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but so for me, it's well, I'm very sensitive to emotions of other people. I take them on. I get really overwhelmed when I go outside and I see a lot of movement, people, colors, everything. I just um yeah, my default setting would go into panic. And so I decided not to get out at all. And but obviously now I've been in it for 31 years, and it's time that I get myself. So now I do little like parts with my bike. I go and I practice, but I also practice when I'm in a panic attack, how am I going to get myself out of it? Because that was my is my biggest fear. And so I had one, and then usually I would pop a pill, and I'm not doing that for a long time anymore. So now I breathe myself through. I do have supplements, but even those, I now challenge myself to just breathe myself through it. I don't take the supplements anymore. No, I'm not going to the Vondel Park here, unfortunately. I go to my park here around the corner. The Vondel Park is actually in Amsterdam. It's in a city center. It's very popular, but you wouldn't get me there even if you paid me, for now, right?
Yeah.
But um, yeah, it's been a long road, I have to say, but I am getting there. And yesterday, for the first time, I had actually therapy. I do have somatic therapy. So that's about feeling in your body and knowing whether you're grounded or where do you feel the uncomfort that is. And I could never find a spot in my body where I felt safe. So I had no safety within me. My cats were my safety. And
Right.
so when they died with that, I felt like I was rudderless. I had nothing to cling on to. And that's what my cats represented as well. So the moment they had to go, I needed to learn to find that within myself. And yesterday, during a therapy session for the first time, because I was about to go in a panic, and so my therapist says, try to find a safe spot. And I was like, I can't because my cats are gone, and I'm here by myself. And then I thought, myself, me, that there's something. And then I felt something inside of me, like physically inside of me, that felt safe, and I was calm. I didn't go into panic. I didn't go in anxiety. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, it's there. I'm actually safe all by myself. And so that was the first time in my life that I could feel that. And
Wow.
yeah, that's very special. And so, we all have different levels to climb. And I guess I got dealt a harder card than maybe others, or a different card, I want to say, because it was probably all meant to be exactly the way as it did. And my life may start after 60 instead of before my 60s. And
Right. Well, and maybe some people never work through or don't work through that in this lifetime, but it doesn't come up for them because maybe they have a codependent relationship that they just stay in. So they're
yeah,
never forced to work through that, finding the comfort in themselves, finding the strength in themselves. Maybe they have someone who's kind of externally providing that for them. And that's all nice and soft and comfy and wonderful, but it's never going to get them to the Olympics, like we were saying. So I believe my beliefs also, like you, are very strong. I'm not saying that I'm right in them, but I have a very clear understanding of what I think is going to happen. And like you, it keeps me out of trouble. It keeps me on the straight and narrow. It's
yes,
what I use to, I think that's what any spirituality or religion is really for, is a guide to help you live your life and to um, be there for you when the chips are down, to give you that strength, to keep you going. And yeah, if you can find that strength within, um that is like the like what am I trying to say? It's like the pinnacle, one of the pinnacle lessons that you can learn here on planet Earth. Like you have to, but
sure,
you also have to learn how to um integrate others. See,
yes,
like, listen, being around crowds is for the birds. Who says that you need to get yourself to the point where you like to be around crowds? I don't like to be around crowds either. And you have very close friendships. It's not like you're some loner who doesn't have human connection. You might not be in person with those people, but a lot of the world is like that right now anyway. We find the people that we
Right.
connect with, and it might not be necessarily be someone that lives in your town, but you are very open and
Well,
honest, right? With the people that you have in your life.
that's true. Actually, there was a time, I think it was 2010. I believe that was the longest time I've been without seeing a human, was 8 months. Uh,
Gosh,
I
wow.
wouldn't see a human being. I wouldn't talk to anybody. Um, I had many of those times during these 30 years where I wouldn't speak to a human being in so many months. And for me, it's always like if they throw me in jail in isolation, I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool. Do we get Netflix?
Yeah, I mean, if they give me Netflix with that, but yeah, it's that's my life, and it's very out of the ordinary. I understand that, and I realize that, but I'm also a social butterfly. I actually like my early 20s. I was like a model.
Yeah.
Um, Not
You weren't
that.
like a model, you were a model.
Yeah, I would work. Actually, I did TV and modeling just like you and your sister. And so, but for me, that was actually, that's when the panic attack started, because everybody wanted your attention. Everybody wanted something from you. And to me, that was so, my outside didn't correspond with the inside. My inside was anything but that. So, yeah. And later on, I actually learned that have autism. I'm very much on the spectrum, and everything made sense. Everything. I was like, oh, okay. I understand now why a lot of stuff goes over my head socially. And I thought must have been because I've been isolating for so long, but it's not, it's not like I'm not social. It's just that I'm different, I guess. And
Well,
yeah,
but the awakening also, when you go through something like that, it's almost like you don't have the patience anymore to just chit chat with people or have
yeah,
superficial relationships, right? Like I could never, well, I could never like be date a person or be best friends with a person at this point, like especially on the other end of this one, that didn't interest me on that level, that didn't have that depth of understanding and spirituality and that healing. If they weren't healed, if they were, arrogant or whatever, it's like you just don't have, you can't connect with those people anymore. So again, that's why I say you shouldn't be so hard on I mean, obviously, you want to have a balance in your life where you don't have to
right,
feel afraid to leave your house. But I feel like it's very natural while you're trying to push yourself out this way. Everybody's kind of retreating back into these smaller circles of the people that
right.
they can actually connect with and talk about these very interesting, deep things.
Right, but that's the thing. I could never do that, the chit chat or whatever. I often have on X somebody, do you want to be friends? And I'm like, no, I don't know you. And I have friends. Well, not that many, but either way, I'm
You have a
very
lot.
selective. And the reason I'm selective is because I can't handle much more. Like, I can't do chit chat. I just can't. It just drains the crap out of me. And, um, it's, yeah, I can't do small talk. I absolutely can't. It's
So and like not everyone goes through the same kind of depth of dark night of the soul, but if somebody hasn't really been through it, it's very hard to connect and relate to them and like find something tangible that is interesting or appealing to you, because it's
right,
just like they're almost like these NPCs walking around in the world. You're like, okay, well, you're nice, your life looks very nice and fluffy and all, but it's just not like, I don't, you ever have conversations with somebody where it's not a judgment thing, it's just kind of like a, man, are we on different planets?
right. And that's actually interesting. You said that about NPCs. For me, they've been around my whole life. I've saw them. I can look straight through people. I know if they're honest or not. I know when they wear that mask, right? That social mask. I can deal with that. I have no filter when it comes to yeah, saying things. And the reason is because, and this is interesting because as a child, I would always say, I think we all are supposed to be telepathic,
Mm,
because then we can and read each other's minds. And I would always be like that, saying, my life is going to be like somebody can read my mind. And
yeah, I think
that's,
that too.
yeah, and I love that because, well, obviously now it becomes more, people are becoming more authentic, and they want to be more authentic. They want to be
Some,
more, yeah, well, I see it more and more. And maybe that's exactly why this is the time where I come back in the world, because, um, I'm ready for it, and people are ready to receive me the way that I am. And that sounds a bit weird, maybe, but that's kind of how I see it. Maybe that was exactly how it was supposed to be this all along, because I wasn't ready for the world at all.
right. Well, it seems like it gets very polarized where you have, some people that are getting deeper, more authentic, more true to themselves and others. Again, vibing on that telepathic level where you do have that kind of frequency connection, that frequency match with somebody. And then there's this other subset of human beings that it literally is almost like they are fading out of your existence because they are vibrating at something. It's almost like changing a radio station. You can almost not
Yes.
even hear them anymore. There's static there because there's just they're still operating in this old world, in the old paradigm.
Yes, yes. You see these two extremes, right? Where those that are very in their ego, and they're very much, they lie a lot, all that stuff. And then you have these people that are like, you know what? I'm done faking it and playing it. Even makeup, right? I know I'm getting older. It's tough. It's tough getting older, you
No.
know? But there are moments I'm like, why am I still putting on makeup? I still do it,
Yeah.
but I'm like, I'm so fed up. I just want to be myself. I don't want to be something that, it's not like I'm not myself when I have makeup on, but like Pamela Anderson, for example,
Yeah.
she did a great one with that. And I think she went through exactly that as well. That she thought, you know what, I'm done. I'm just going to bear myself and just show myself.
Well, there was nobody on the planet that's probably been more ogled than she has. Everybody's,
Right.
like, and that's just what she was, that's got to feel weird to just go through life as a piece of meat.
Right.
And she completely has rejected it at this point, and there are people that have their thoughts and feelings on it. I mean, who was it that there was some actress that just recently, oh, it was the girl from I Know What You Did Last Summer, Jennifer Love Hewitt, I think.
Right.
Just recently pictures came out of her and she's put on weight. By the way, she still looks fantastic. She's still beautiful. She was always a rail with big boobs when she
Right.
was younger. Now she has, put on weight, and it was amazing to me how much criticism I was seeing and how cruel people could be. And I think to myself, half these people, like probably most of these people, where's your picture? What do
Right.
you look like? It's just it's so stupid to judge people based on something like that.
Right. That's something I struggled with as well, because my inside didn't correspond with the outside, and I would turn heads, right?
Mhm.
When I was younger. And so, and it felt so awkward because I always felt like an imposter, because inside it wasn't the same as what people
Mm.
saw on the outside. And at the same time, they also indeed treat you like just an object, right, on the outside. And so what Pamela Anderson did there, I think, was so courageous and so amazing. I think that took a lot of courage to do. And
And I think
that,
oh, sorry.
yeah, well, I then watched her documentary, and where she tells her whole story, and I was blown away. But because I knew obviously what had happened more or less, but not how deep it went. And so to come out of that and then just, go like, I just want to be myself. I'm done being a sex symbol.
Yeah.
And good for her.
Yeah. It's very different to me than the whole what is it? The body positivity movement. had some good things about it, but it also had some very toxic things about
Yeah.
it because it was encouraging people to not be healthy. Like there is a
Right.
difference
Yeah.
between being, expecting everybody to be model rail thin and telling women that are obese that they are perfect just the way they are and they shouldn't try because it's not healthy for them. You're
Right.
encouraging them to live shorter lives that are less comfortable, less healthy, all the things. So, but to encourage a woman to not wear makeup or not feel pressured to look a certain way, I'm all for that. But as long as they are doing something that's healthy, you wouldn't look at an anorexic and be like, oh man, you look amazing. You
Right.
never stop because you know that she's doing something unhealthy for her body.
Right, exactly. Actually, I wanted to go in the comment here from
Yeah.
Eva Peterson. Thank you for this honest report. I myself have two cats supporting me for many years through very hard times. Only one left now, 14 years old. He's gold.
Mm.
Yeah, it's our pets are just of course, children are too, but for our pets are just so it's unconditional
Mm-hmm.
you know
They're
of course a
angels.
child is too, but you as a mother are unconditional to your child, but the child is not always to the mother, right? I
Right.
mean, well,
And
acceptance there.
it's complicated, children go through rebellious periods sometimes, or they grow up and they disagree with you on fundamental things and you can be estranged. That doesn't happen with pets. It's just love.
Right. Yeah, it's just love. And, my cats, we did everything together. It sounds strange, but wherever I was, they were, even the toilets, they were with me. One was on my lap, the other one was in the sink every single day. And they would sleep in my arms. We would do Christmas together, everything 24/7 for 14 and a half years. And that's a long time and a lot. And I always cry when I see somebody who lost a pet. It doesn't mean I wouldn't cry if somebody lost a child or a
Yeah.
family member. But yeah, children and pets. That's for me is just something that has me sobbing as well when that happens. Because I've been there and I can relate. So, well, not to the children, but I think it has to do with innocence
Mhm.
and yeah, this unconditional love.
Right. Well, there is like I always bring it back to vibration, but there is a vibrational thing too with animals. And you will notice after my awakening experiences, after I go through these dark night of the soul, I had never had this experience before, but dogs, horses, babies, they just gravitate towards you. They are enthralled. Like I remember my family went together a couple years ago to the petting zoo, and I went over to where these um three horses were, and this horse just came up to me, like walked, it was on the other side and it walked across the entire thing, walked straight up to me and put its nose against my
Yes.
face like this, and it just left it there, and I was just like, what is
Yeah.
happening? Same thing with babies. Like babies, when I'm around them, that didn't happen to me when I was younger. They just like babies will come up to me and want me to pick them up that I've never met before, or they'll just stare at you. Animals gravitate because they kind of sense like, is it the healing? Is it
Yeah.
because I know for
Well,
you,
they can see straight through you. That's what children can do and animals can do. Adults cannot do that. But
right.
animals and babies and children, they can see straight through you. They look through your bullshit and they know exactly when you're vulnerable, even if you pretend not to be, right? That's what they see. But I always watched my cats when there would be somebody coming in my house. I always watched my cats if I could trust the person. And the reaction of my cats told me whether I could trust somebody or not.
Yeah.
And it never failed, ever, you
Yeah.
know? So, and here's an interesting one, by the way. That's the trees now these days and plants that are talking. They're not talking back, but they're actually moving. Have you done that? That's actually a trend that was for a while. When I was in Mexico, it was already a trend on Instagram and TikTok where they would talk to the tree and say, hello, and can you touch me? And so and these trees would actually touch them, like reach out and touch them. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try that. And so I was standing at a tree. It was in Mexico. And I said, hello, tree. And I said, can you touch me? And I was literally trying to connect with that tree. And what do you know? This freaking tree reached out and touched my shoulder. And there's so many clips of people having this experience. And so, yeah, I think we were always blind to all that stuff before.
Yeah. I think an interesting thing to try to work on, we were talking about being telepathic and that everybody probably we have that. It's technology that lives within us that we just don't know how to use. Probably once
Right.
upon a time, humanity used to be able to use it, and now we can't. But it's just technology that we need to relearn. So these exercises, one of the exercises that I like to do is taking notice of the light in people's eyes. And I don't care if somebody has dark brown eyes or like neon blue eyes. There is a light that is either there or isn't. And I have
Right.
watched people that went from good to evil, and I have literally watched the light leave their eyes. And normal people, not normal, I mean, I don't mean normal. I mean like most people aren't like picking up on that on a conscious level. Subconsciously, I think we do. I think all people do. You'll feel a little bit more uncomfortable or a little bit more uneasy around them, or maybe you don't trust them as much. Those are the signals of your brain picking up like, man, the light has left this person's eyes.
Right.
And it's once you start to notice that and you can like look for it more. And also judging how you feel like when you hear somebody talk or say something, it's not just listen to it and mentally compute what it is they're saying. Let your body kind of also interpret what it is that they're saying to let you know, is this true, is this coming from a good
Yeah.
place?
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally can relate to that. That's what I do automatically. So, when I'm around people, but when I'm in a fear stage, it's very difficult to do that. But when I'm in a relaxed state, I can instantly feel it, and
Yeah.
it's amazing. But I do think we're evolving in that sense. By the way, animals too. I see these animal clips that I think they're almost becoming human the way that they act, right? And yeah, I do think we're evolving incredibly, all of us, right? Everything that's alive at this point. But yeah, I was looking, sorry, at a comment of intermittent fasting. I always
Mhm.
gouge people by my dogs. They always know. Yes, they do. Dogs do too. I mean, I love all animals. I mean, not just cats specifically, but I do have that connection very strongly with animals. I once had in a train where wasn't in a train for 10 years, and then I decided to go in a train again. At the time, I had a boyfriend, wanted to surprise him. Well, that was a surprise because we were at the part where I feared the most because it was in the middle of freaking nowhere, and somebody um, went under the train, jumped in front of the train, and I felt it actually going underneath me. And I was like, no, 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 no. This can't be. Because now the train stops in the middle of nowhere and I can get out because, they tell you don't look out of the windows because, there's a lot of
Oh,
blood and whatever not. And don't get out of the train. Well, you can't because you're in the middle of nowhere and sitting there. And so I was about to go in a complete panic. But I was in one of these closed off. I don't know if you guys don't do train much, but we had at the time these cabins where you just can sit with four people.
oh,
And
I've
there was
seen Harry Potter, I know.
right. So there was a man with me with his dog. At the moment I was about to go in a panic, this dog turns around and puts his head on my lap, and I instantly calmed down. And I
Wow.
looked at this dog and I knew this dog is knowing what I'm feeling. And because they smell it as well. And the moment he put his head on my lap, I calmed down
Mm.
completely. And I've felt this many times. This is why my cats were for me as well a very a calming thing, right? So yeah, when they left, I had to deal with it myself.
Right. Right. Yeah, we like babies, we have to learn how to self-soothe, and it's not easy because we're not taught that, and we're taught to like get everything we need from other people. And it would be a lot better in life if we could get everything we needed from ourselves and reserved all the beautiful things just adding to your life by having people in your life that
Yes.
they you both contribute to each other equally.
Right.
That's the way that
Absolutely.
it should be. But I
That's
do think that everything is, as more people have these awakenings and go through the dark night of the soul and heal themselves and all of that, the world is changing. Like, we are becoming almost a new type of human being. We are not, there's a lot to be said there, but we are changing as human beings on our consciousness level. And I think once upon a time, we were all connected in that way. And I think
yeah.
once we got to the point where we were the most animalistic and cut off from each other and had the least amount of empathy, that is when Jesus was born. And he taught everybody that you don't just love tribally, you don't just love your family or whoever's going to protect you and keep you safe like animals do. You love people that can do nothing for you.
Yes. Yes, that's it. We also program to, you know, there's opportunism. There is so much going on around the world that makes us, you know, go towards those people that don't serve us. But then again, then you go through a dark night of the soul and you learn your lesson, right?
Shoot, yes, you do. Well, we've been going for about an hour and a half. I should go get my kid fed some lunch. But do you have any kind of final thoughts or anything you want to leave people with?
Well, if there's anything, just, yeah, if you go through a dark night of the soul, first of all, yeah, you're on your own, but at the same time, you always have people that you can share it with. But it always serves a purpose. And that's absolutely something I learned from it. It serves a purpose. And the purpose is to evolve for yourself, to learn your lessons, to, well, get better with yourself, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's really what I would take out of this. And yeah, I want to thank everybody for coming because I got to go too. I got a birthday to
I know
celebrate.
you got a birthday. And thank you so much for being so raw and real and sharing this, sharing all those parts of yourself. And, like you said, to help each other through it. That's literally why we're here. And that's why we're going to be
Right.
continuing these discussions every week. And we hope you guys will join in. And maybe some of you want to come on and talk about your
Yeah,
experiences. So anyway, we love you guys. Patricia, I love you. You couldn't be a
I
more
love
beautiful
you.
human being. I'm so grateful that you were born, and I will be
Yeah.
celebrating in my own way today. So be sure
Yeah.
to hit those thumbs and subscribes and whatever you can. Click on all the buttons, guys. Press all the things on your way out.
And thank you all for coming. Also in Pill.net, I do see you all, but yeah, I was the talker today, so I couldn't pay a lot of attention to the chat. But anyway, thank you all for coming, and we'll be back next week with a guest, probably.
Yes, we will. Not
Right.
not disclosed yet, but yes, we will. All right. Bye, you guys.
Bye.